Hi, this is Dr. Michael Ray with ClinicalAthlete. Today we're going to be talking about some of the exercise metrics that we're tracking on our templates for tendinopathy. We're going to go through each of the metrics, explain what they mean, and then we're going to go to the templates themselves and kind of walk you guys through how to use them. So one of the first daily metrics that we're tracking is the exercise tonnage, which is going to be the sets times reps times load that you're using for each exercise. We're also going to be tracking average intensity, which is going to be the total weight utilized for an exercise divided by the total number of sets for that particular exercise. Next would be absolute intensity, which is going to be the highest weight utilized for an exercise. Then we're tracking session RPE, or rate of perceived exertion. So overall, how do you feel the session that you just completed was for difficulty on a scale of 1 to 10? We're also tracking duration, so the amount of time that you spend for an individual training session. And then finally, the session score, which we list as the arbitrary unit. Session score is going to be session RPE times the duration of training. And that will give us the arbitrary unit that we're going to track, and that will help us calculate future acute on chronic workload ratios. Okay, so let's take a look at the templates now. And we can go over each of these metrics that we mentioned just a second ago. So the first metric that we're going to be tracking each day is going to be exercise tonnage. And just to reiterate, that's going to be sets times reps times load. So on phase 2, we have day 1 as the isotonic lifts, where we've selected our double leg or our single leg exercises. We have the tempo listed out, the number of sets you're supposed to be completing, as well as the repetitions, and the recommended subjective intensity with RPE. Now if we scroll over to the right, we can find our objective score, which is going to be the number of sets we've completed, the number of reps, and what weight we've utilized. When we input the sets and input the reps and input the weight, then what we're going to have is, scrolling over to the right, a column here called exercise tonnage that's going to populate. So let's say for the first exercise, we selected hack squat. And let's say that for hack squat, on set 1, we did 100 pounds for 10 reps. And then on the second set, we did an additional 10 reps for 110 pounds. Third set, we did 15 reps, and we did that for 125 pounds. Second working set, we did for 15 reps, and we did that for 135. And then our final set of 15 for a top set at RPE 10 out of 10, we hit 155. Now if we come over here, we can see that we have a few things that have been calculated for us. The first is the exercise tonnage, and again, that's just the number of sets times the number of reps times the load utilized, which for this is 8,325. We also have average intensity. Remember, with average intensity, this is going to be the overall amount of weight that was lifted for this particular exercise divided by the total number of sets, which in this case is going to be 5 sets, and that gives us the average intensity. So on average, you lifted 125 pounds for this movement. And then we have absolute intensity, which is going to be the most weight lifted for this particular exercise, which is 155 pounds. And then each time you complete all of the exercises for this session, it will then populate over here. So that takes care of the first couple of variables we mentioned: exercise tonnage, average intensity, and absolute intensity. The next thing would be session RPE. So this is how difficult you found this particular session on a scale of 1 to 10. And then you're going to record that back over here at the beginning, at the bottom right here. And we have a little drop-down menu, and you can select anywhere from 1 up to 10. And it does go down in half increments as well. So check that out. And then let's just say today's session was pretty difficult and you rated it at 9.5. You're then going to put in the session duration. So how long did this session take you? We're going to say 90 minutes. And then now we're going to have our arbitrary unit that we mentioned, which is going to be the session RPE times the amount of minutes, the number of minutes, which is 90. And we get 855 arbitrary units. The arbitrary units is going to be important because as the weeks go on, we will eventually be tracking something called acute on chronic workload ratio after the 4th week, so starting on the 5th week. and then we'll have some parameters to talk with you guys about that. We'll cover acute on chronic workload ratios and our weekly our weekly metrics video. So be sure to check that out in the future.